and welcome to episode 247, yes, of Checkpoint Chat. My name is Alessandro Barbosa. I'm joined by a matching Matthew Figueroa. Well, you already know on the video stream.
You took the words out of my mouth. It's no bigger surprise when you flip on the camera and you're like, whoa, you're wearing the same
I'm pretty
color
sure I
as
can
me.
guess that's a Mario shirt?
Oh, you hate to see it. It's
No,
it's a
really,
Naughty
is it
Dog
not?
shirt.
Oh, it's a Naughty Dog. You don't have the Mario shirt, you have the Luigi shirt.
Of course, I've got the Luigi shirt. You've got the Mario shirt.
Hate to see it.
Imagine we both presented at Nintendo as Marios.
As Mario, yeah, that'd make no sense at all.
Like
Zero
Luigi
sense.
doesn't exist in this timeline. It's the two Marios.
I should have taken a colored Naughty Dog shirt when a good friend of the show, Neelan, was offering them, because I took the white one, and white clothes over. I mean, we got that shirt in 2016
spilled mom's
or something
spaghetti
like
on
that.
it once, and then you got to throw it in the
Well,
trash.
that, and it just starts fading. It starts looking grey and not grey. So it's a bummer because that shirt rules.
There's something about some of the gaming shirts we got that they just last.
I know some are just super quality.
Do you still have that Witcher 3 shirt?
Yep.
And that thing's got a print in it, and it still looks. Look, it's probably a bit faded, but I've worn it on and off for the last 9 years now, and it's it's still.
I've actually got two, because I got one when I went to Poland to do the hands-on preview. They gave me a shirt there, and then got one at E3 with you, and both of them are still like really, really nice to wear. Another one that I have that's nice is this was one I bought though at E3, but was at the Bethesda booth when they announced Prey, the Arcane one. I got like a Prey shirt. It's like a grey one with a schematic print of the ship that you're on, and that thing's still like, firstly, it fits super, super nicely, but it still looks really good. So yeah, some shirts just built different.
Do you still have the Sea of Thieves shirts from, was it E3?
I think I gave that to my mom because the one I got was way too big, even when I got it.
She's a big Sea of Thieves fan, am I right?
Yeah, she loves Sea of Thieves. Yeah, loves sailing, loves digital sailing. I don't think I have that shirt. I have an old as hell Diablo Reaper of Souls shirt that I sleep in a lot, but that's faded to shit. I would never leave the house. I'd be embarrassed.
A relic I'm so proud of. I have a Quantum Break shirt, which means we've come full circle, because I'll actually talk about it this episode.
That is wild. From the time you met Sam Lake and didn't know.
No, I knew he was, but it was like
you knew he was Max Payne's face.
Now I'm like, oh my God, Sam Lake notices me, senpai. You're the best.
Yeah, exactly.
That guy is my favorite. It's my absolute favorite.
Imagine he just imagine they had hands-on previews for Alan Wake 2, and you just open the door and it was just him like dancing, just like he was in that one sequence.
I'd love that. I'd pay money for that.
I would. Just and also not speaking, because he never spoke in those live action sequences. He used to just do like weird. Yeah,
we got to do an Alan Wake. I know we've done like a proper review, but we've got to do a spoiler cast. We would just talk about all the good stuff that happened in that game.
Let's just speak for an hour about
that scene,
Herald of Darkness, and that's it. Like I would
let's
gladly
just do Herald of Darkness.
Yeah, let's just dance and just record that while we're talking about Herald of Darkness.
Amazing.
I've listened to that song so many times. So many times. It's so good. Also, weirdly enough, I have this like playlist on Spotify, or it's like a Spotify generated playlist for the gym. It's just like high intensity music for the gym. And it seems to pick up on other songs that I listen to and then match those to like, I guess, a tempo, and is like, this will actually work in this playlist. So now I have like 2 or 3 of the chapter ending songs from Alan Wake just suddenly cropping up while I'm like bench pressing or something like that. Real good. 10 out of 10 would recommend. Yeah.
What feature of Spotify is that? Is it like,
I don't know. I just searched this playlist ages ago called for like a gym playlist, and it came up with one, but it's a Spotify generated one.
Okay. Okay.
So and it uses your listening history.
AR.
Yeah, and I don't know. Listen, it works. I just press play and it does stuff, and I'm like, sick. This will get me through the next 45 minutes.
AI coming for DJ jobs right now. Just
listen, we didn't need AI to replace them. They replaced themselves. They're just pressing play on a MacBook. So,
I hate to see
what
it.
can you do? What can
shuffle
you do?
button existed since MP3 players existed.
Just bring that iPod Mini, press shuffle, boom, you've got a wedding playlist.
Struggling.
Yeah. Why do you think all those playlists sound the same? They're circulating the same one.
When last did you hear from Pitbull? Mr. Worldwide, replaced by AI.
Sure.
He gets
Not
on
even
stage
AI
now.
wants
Mr.
to
AI.
remix. Oh, God. I hate this.
Oh, I love this.
I absolutely hate it. I'm just picturing a computer program with sunglasses now.
Photoshop that, please.
Have you ever seen Pitbull's eyes?
No. This is what keeps me up at night. But actually, I lie. There's a music video, I swear. Maybe not.
I'm Googling Pitbull's eyes right now. Let's see if it comes up with him or a dog first. Okay, it came up with dog.
Oh,
okay.
I don't know what you expected. You've got to search correctly.
Pitbull.
DJ AI.
Oh my God.
Eyes.
This is very disconcerting. I don't like this.
Because you should.
His eyes are like very small. They're piercing blue though. They are beautiful.
What?
But
this is why he's got to wear the glasses. They're too piercing.
This completely changes his persona. He's not Mr. Worldwide. Now he's just
Mr. Small Eyes, according to you.
Yeah, okay. I don't know.
Love to see
especially with his little goatee for ants, his non-glasses look does not work for me.
When last did he actually make a song?
When did he make a song?
I'm sure
good
he does.
Question.
I'm
pretty sure he's like featured on some song where he just goes Pitbull, and then that's it, you know. Mr. AI.
And the song starts. Listen, I'm not making this up. This is actual facts. Okay.
You know, in a week where the world is up in arms over, pretty ridiculously bad AI generated content of Taylor Swift. We out here.
I missed that.
Yeah. It's on the news. Like the White House even spoke about it. It's like, as you can expect, AI being used to make quite explicit content with Taylor Swift's face on it, and she's like super not you know, deservedly so not happy about that. But we didn't need AI to see Pitbull's eyes. So.
But what does the White House have to contribute to that conversation?
I don't know. I think they were just like, there needs to be better regulation. It's just very strange. I mean, not strange, just like weird that this was the straw that broke the camel's back type of thing.
I mean,
there's been like lots of red flags in other industries being thrown up.
Well, didn't Taylor Swift...
But it just shows you the power Taylor Swift has, though.
Well, didn't she single-handedly, you know, collectively with the whole team, whatever, but single-handedly improve the US economy last year?
Yeah. All of her concerts and stuff like that. Yeah, she like actually had an
actual impact,
tangible impact on the economy.
The White House.
I think one of her concerts like actually generated seismic activity as well that could be measured on the Richter scale. I can't recall where.
Your Swifties out here stomping the earth out of orbit.
Taylor Swift earthquake concert.
That is
apparently
wild.
There's an earthquake. So yeah, Taylor Swift fans cause record-breaking seismic activity in Lumen Field. I don't know where that is.
I don't know what timeline this is
in Seattle.
We live in, but this is wild. The White House actually saying we need to protect Taylor Swift at all costs because A, she's helping us the economy, and B, if we don't keep her in check, earthquakes. We've got to regulate her.
This is what she can do to us.
The greatest threat to our
apparently
nation.
It was stronger than the quote beastquake, which was a tiny little earthquake created by Seattle Seahawks fans after an impressive touchdown in 2020.
I just want to be that. Imagine that person on the sideline with what do they use to measure earthquakes again? Is it like the Richter scale? They're just standing. Yeah. I don't know what it looks like. Okay, but I imagine they've got standing on the sideline with a little device going, oh, record break.
Oh, it's coming. Oh.
Here comes the finale. Oh. get Mr. Joe Biden on the phone. Tell him this is dangerous shit.
This time when you tell your friends and family that you were at a concert and you're like, the place was so loud it felt like an earthquake. You're not lying. It really was.
Speaking truth.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Oh, Swifties.
Wild.
It's wild.
I mean, I'm not even I'm not a Taylor Swift fan. I barely know any of her songs. Shani, big fan, huge fan. But seeing videos from the concerts, I would not mind going to see a performance because it looks insane.
I'd
it
go
just looks
for
like
the spectacle.
what a show.
Yeah.
But
100%.
it is like fucking impossible to get tickets now. So
good luck.
I work with people I know that are actually going to can't remember the country now, but they're going to Europe in June, July to watch one of the shows.
Where is she
They
coming?
bought the tickets like over a year ago.
Damn.
Yeah. When she comes to South Africa, never.
No, I was going to say, I didn't realize she's doing like a Europe tour. Not that I'd go.
Yeah. She'll be in the UK for sure.
No,
what's that one in London? The O2 Arena?
I think it's the O2 Arena, yeah.
Yeah, I'll probably be there. You'll probably hear it or feel it, in...
Thank you for the heads up. Now I know.
Yeah,
July
on the day,
21st, whatever the day it is.
Just take refuge under your couch. Yeah.
It's okay. It's a Taylor Swift concert. We're good. It's fine. We're absolutely fine. Just relax. My goodness. Love to see it.
Very fun. You know what else creates earthquake? No, I can't even say.
You could have said you know what else video is games fun, but that would have been the more obvious
I latched
segue.
onto the wrong part of that. Yeah,
but it also is
wrong
Taylor
part
Swift
of that.
music, not video games. I don't know.
Do you think Taylor Swift plays video games? I'm pretty sure she does.
I'm sure
I think there was a story of her playing Switch or something that I read about. I don't know.
Nice.
Famous people are people too. A lot of them play video games. There was just an article yesterday about Kieran. Do you know Kieran Culkin?
Oh, yeah.
He's one of the guys from Succession, Macaulay Culkin's brother. About how on the second date he had with his wife or something, she asked, I don't know why, asked him to play a game of Tekken and he won. And I was like, okay.
Nice. of all the fighting games, Tekken is the one that any newcomer could come in and just win. You just close your eyes, roll that
Eddie
controller
Goro.
over push X, 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 win. Best combo. Game-winning combo.
We laughed when Brian Cox did the whole narration of the Tekken story because it was absolutely fucking ridiculous.
It's so good.
The story of Succession, he is 100% Heihachi, and his three sons are all Kazuya, and he's chucking them in volcanoes all the time. Yeah.
And they
3 sons? Sorry, 2 sons and a daughter.
I need to watch that show.
I
have not watched Succession.
I think you and Lenska would absolutely adore that show.
How many seasons are there?
5.
Okay.
But it's all finished now, so you can just blitz through it. It's
nice.
so good. Yeah, it's riveting stuff. I don't think there was a single season that was bad.
Nice.
Every season's just top notch. Yeah.
Nice.
Would recommend.
But video games, Tekken.
Video games.
Yeah,
I haven't been playing much this week, but you've jumped into 2 things. Correct?
Yes. Shall we talk about? Oh my gosh, I'm not even ready. Where's my
247 episodes?
Where's this folder? I had a folder I made in my. Hang on. Oh, there it is. Okay, so I'm playing catch up with some stuff I missed end of last year. So I suppose. Well, wait. When did this content launch? I'm talking about the Valhalla content for God of War.
Mid-December, beginning December.
So it's weird because
I'm not sure.
It's not that I had no intention of playing this, but that conversation we had about The Last of Us and just general discussions on social media about, The Last of Us is roguelite mode is behind a $10 paywall, but God of War released their own for free and it's better. A lot of people say it's a lot better. And I thought, I enjoyed God of War. Maybe let me just go check it out. Let's see what's going there. But more so for the fact that it turns out there was story behind this content. It wasn't just like, oh, hey, there's a roguelite mode, you can just go do stuff and that's that. It's like, oh, there's actual story beats that happen behind this roguelite mode. And that really interests me, because if you've not finished God of War Ragnarok, maybe close your ears. But Kratos doesn't die, as many people thought would happen, because we knew it was the end of the Norse saga, and your immediate thought must be like, well, surely he's going to die, and then like Atreus is going to pick up the mantle, and that's a whole different story beat. But where this picks up is after the events of Ragnarok, and Kratos is just trying to still reconcile with his past, and he gets an invitation to, I mean, by past I mean like before God of War reboots, old Kratos from Sparta doing violent Kratos things. So he gets an invitation to Valhalla, which, if you know very loosely from Norse mythology, is a place where you go to do endless fighting, endless battle, whatever. And I think it's genius that old Sony Santa Monica thought, well, that sounds like the perfect setting for a roguelite, where we get Kratos to just do runs through Valhalla. It does the typical God of War thing where you have all your abilities and weapons unlocked, but your stats are reduced to 0. Or Kratos arrives, oh no, my power's gone. But that's...
Oh, of course.
But
does he have amnesia too?
No amnesia this time, thank goodness.
Damn.
But it works, obviously, in the roguelite sense of, okay, you've stacked all your stats, but as you do each run, you get resources to do permanent upgrades, for example, upgrade your strength, defense, etc. And then where the roguelite mechanics really kick in is the fact that every time you do a run, you get to do a different build, or you get to spec out differently, which is a side of God of War I've never really engaged with. I mean, you've played both games, and it's sort of, which armor set gives me the best, for example, strength or defense. Oh, it happens to have this perk or this set of abilities that comes with it. Whereas, now it's got a thing of, okay, maybe I'm going to do a run with, say, the axe. Let me try to choose abilities that all spec and complement each other. So a good example is, I did a run last night where one of the first things offered to me was like, your precision throws do more damage, whatever. So it's like, okay, I need to throw my axe more. Further along the run, I get another ability. It's like, if you hold the aim button, the longer you hold it, the more damage it, like you build up a sort of damage buff. So you're doing more damage with throws. And eventually I started compounding all of these abilities that complemented each other, where I wasn't even running in to hit people. I was literally just standing back and throwing my axe and calling it back. And it was amazing. A lot of fun. Like, I think what surprised me most about this is that it's kind of hilarious how it's never crossed my mind, at least, for God of War to have a roguelite mode, but it makes so much sense given that the combat is fantastic. Like, I love God of War's combat. Anyone who's played it will know how good it feels to throw the axe, call it back, switch between different weapons. So yeah, on that front, absolutely loving it. But what surprised me is the story. It's surprisingly meaty. It's not just a thing of like, I don't know what I expected of. It's a free piece of content. Like, how much story can they actually expand on here? But I was saying to you before we started recording, it reminds me so much of Hades. In terms of how it's structured, things feel organic. Like, if you've played Hades, you'll do a run, you'll come back, you'll talk to people, and they'll talk to you contextually, like, oh, hey, you did this in your run, or hey, I've just got an update, so I've got new things to say to you. And this is doing exactly that, where it's Kratos and Mimir talking through the actual run itself. Mimir's with you, obviously. And then when you end the run, it's like, oh, there's people outside Valhalla's gates with updates talking to you. There's things that happen in Valhalla with each run that are contextual and story-based, like Kratos dealing with his past and whatever. And there's just some neat surprises as well. If you're a long-time God of War fan pre-reboot, there are callbacks to the original games. And I've played all of them, so it's very cool to see that brought into, like, from a modern perspective of like, oh shit, like, no spoilers, but like Kratos did this when he was a lot younger. Like, what a dick thing to do, but let's reframe it and look at it from an older Kratos perspective, and let's help him grapple with it. So it's been very surprising on that front, and I've just been having a fantastic time with it, and it's completely free. So love
And
to see it.
do you have any sort of indication of how like long it is? Because
so
Hades is quite long.
I've been playing. I'd say I've played maybe 6 or 7 hours. Like it's a fair bit. I mean, and I've to my understanding, I've finished like the content. Like I've reached the end of it in terms of the actual the run itself.
Like story.
No, not the story. The actual.
Okay.
But the thing is, like now, like Hades, you're incentivized to keep replaying because you're unlocking new things. Like every time you finish a run, whatever, it like drip feeds you so much stuff. So when you first start playing, it's like, okay, you can't really unlock anything. Okay, you've reached a little bit further in your run. Now we're giving you resources to upgrade your strength and your defense. Okay, now you've reached a bit further in your run. Cool. Now we're going to give you perks with each run as you go through it. Okay, now you've reached even further. We're going to give you the ability to do other permanent upgrades. So it's very layered and there's a lot to do, but it is drip fed to you in a logical way. And yeah, just on the story front, it's been really fun. And I feel like at no point have I gone, oh, okay, I guess I've finished, the core gameplay content. I'm done. I'm going, no, I want to keep playing because I want to see how the story ends. Like I haven't reached its conclusion. So I'm definitely going to keep playing on that front.
And so are there like specific biomes, or is it just recycling areas from the main game and then you hit like a boss? Or
so it's clever the way they contextualize it. They say Valhalla makes you face like your own, like Valhalla is different for each person that enters it. So for Kratos, a lot of the areas are biomes from the God of War reboot. So if you're watching the footage now, I can't for the life of me remember. This isn't Midgard.
This is the Dwarven.
This is the Dwarven one, yeah.
Dwarven area.
So
what's this, Svartalheim?
Yeah, so it cycles between different biomes randomly, and you'll get to a point where you do a fight. Think of it this way: the way it's structured is like there's an arena where you do a fight, and then there's an arena where you like choose your next path forward, like your reward path.
Okay. Okay, so very similar to Hades, and that when you sometimes get in those rooms and it's just got 3 doors, and it's like, oh, okay.
So
it's not a combat room. Yeah.
No, so you essentially you do combat. You exit into like a safe area where there's either resources or whatever, and you can choose. Okay, behind that door there's an upgrade. There's a new rune for my weapon, or I can go through that door and get like a health upgrade. And then you choose your door, and then typically you know which realm you're in because that door, it's difficult to explain, but that safe room is based in a realm, and then when you go through the door, the combat will be in that same realm. Then when you exit to the next safe area, it's like a completely different random realm.
Okay, so if the safe area is like, for instance, now if you're watching the video, you're in Midgard.
Yeah, that's it.
Then the combat will be in Midgard.
Yeah, so now it's like, okay, there's a door there with that reward, or there's a door there with that reward. And there are
then I'm assuming the areas they help like determine the sorts of enemies you're going to be fighting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's interesting because I thought you sort of start to see a pattern of like, oh, if I go through this door, I typically arrive in this arena and there's this enemy or this set of enemies.
Okay.
But they keep surprising me where it's never the same. Even like the last encounter, you think like Hades, oh, you fight old Hades himself, you beat him, and then like every time I fight him, it's going to be the same fight. And then after a while, it's like, oh no, he gets harder. Things change, whatever. And it's the same here. So there's incentive to keep playing. It's just, it reminds me so much of Hades, and that's a good thing. Like I think they took some good lessons from there and they repackaged it in a God of War setting, and it works so well. Like I absolutely cannot stop doing runs in this game mode.
Nice. Yeah. Sounds great.
So
and it's free, so that's
absolutely
awesome.
Free.
I do wanna get to it purely because like I was saying to you before the show, like the Last of Us and its roguelite mode is neat from a mechanical standpoint, but it is just a pure mechanical like mode. There's no narrative incentive to play it, and it's just there if you want to engage with the like stealth action.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm more inclined to play God of War because like I enjoy the story of these games. That's what interests me the most, even if the combat, especially in Valhalla, was the second one called Valhalla?
No, Ragnarok.
The second game, Ragnarok, yeah. Even if the combat in Ragnarok didn't like click with me in the same way that the first game did, I'd be more keen to give this a go just to see what it means for Kratos going forward.
Yeah, but even on the combat front, I think you might be surprised. I think it'll maybe be a bit better for you to be like, okay, I'm going to start a run. I'm going to focus specifically on the spear because I just like the spear, for example. And
the spear is cool.
Granted, you can change between weapons, but like you can completely build that you focus on one specific weapon. Like you can buff the shit out of. Like I've done the same with the spear. I've gone, well, maybe I want to just try do ranged attacks with the spear, and you can. You often get perks where it's like, I think maybe there's stuff on the back end that's picking up what weapon you're starting your run with. It must be because like often I'll start off with the axe, and then I'm inevitably served perks for the axe. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I'm doing an axe run. And I've noticed it's kind of picks up what you do the first 1 or 2 arenas with, and then it starts drip feeding you stuff for that weapon. So you can kind of guard your own run as well from that front. So it's pretty cool. Very, very clever.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's all God of War. Cool. And then I touched on it earlier. Let me just timestamp this. I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I went back in time.
Oh, no.
I know. To play.
It's a terrible pun. I hate that.
To play One Times Quantum Break. I've got some footage here, which I just grabbed.
Game from, if I'm not mistaken, 2015?
It's 8 years old, going on 9 years old, if I'm not mistaken.
The Quantum Break came out in 2016, sure.
Oh
yeah, that does make sense, yeah.
So for those of you who do not know, Quantum Break is what Remedy made before Alan Wake 2 and before Control. Quantum Break came out after the original Alan Wake. And in its time, it was positioned as this gorgeous looking game with time-bending mechanics, time-bending abilities in the combat, and interestingly, live action. Quantum Break features 4 fully fledged TV episodes with, actors and actresses doing things, which pop up between each chapter in the game. So it's very, very interesting that Remedy, like, if you've played Alan Wake and gone, wow, amazing for them to experiment with live action, it's like, no, like they've done it plenty now. I don't know, this game, it's funny. It's the one thing I'm missing from my Remedy repertoire of I've played everything else and I thought, well, shit, why did I miss Quantum Break? I just kind of never got around to it. So I think because it was an Xbox exclusive at the time, didn't really pick it up on PC. And I played it and I enjoyed it, but it's definitely, it's funny because you can see how much Remedy's improved. Like, I think there are flaws with this game. There's things I don't like about it, but I can look at it and go, man, I see how this led to Control. Like, Control being the follow-up to this, it's like they looked at Quantum Break and thought, well, we'll just do it a lot better in our next game. Do you remember?
It's kind of insane just looking at this footage, how good this game still looks.
It still looks really good.
The amount of stuff going on screen at any given time while you're like slow-mo moving through the world and the like ground around you is rippling up, and it looks fantastic.
It's a technical marvel. Like, I don't know how this ran on an Xbox One back in the day.
Not at 60 frames per second. I'll tell you that much.
Can't imagine that. But it's interesting because this definitely it's the precursor to Control.
I think in so many ways though, it's like in tone, in sort of gameplay even was way more like action based with this, these powers, and Control I think feels way more loose. Like this is very much like a cover shooter in a sense. And Control is like, no. Cover doesn't make sense at all. You can throw shit around the room. So you can obviously just run around the room. So it's just a natural evolution, I think, also considering the characters that they have in each of the games. So it's cool. Like you said, they're experimenting with live action here. in a way that Control expands upon, and then Alan Wake completely goes all in on, I think. But you had issues with the episodes because they're like not hosted online anymore.
Yeah, it's weird because so I played the Game Pass version, so i.e. the Microsoft version, and this game is riddled with so many issues. Like, it's actually shocked me. In 8 to 9 years later, there's like a visual bug that happens in certain scenes where I'm sure I've got footage of it somewhere, but I won't dig it up. It's kind of weird to explain, but light leaks through from its light source, and it just kind of dominates the whole scene, if that makes sense.
Oh, weird.
To the point where if you're looking in a certain direction, there's a light source that you actually can't see. It's like blinding.
So it's like bleeding through a wall
or something
like that?
It's bleeding through walls and stuff, and it's just weird. And I think, shit, if I'd played this game, if I'd paid money for this 8 years ago, and this is what happened, and they just never fixed it, I would be pissed.
Yeah, I think it was very clear early on that this game was not hitting in the way Microsoft or Remedy would have liked, and I don't think support on this.
But apparently the Steam version is a lot better, and I don't know why. Like, I don't know.
It came out way later,
but still, like, what constitutes two different versions, one for Steam, one for Microsoft? Surely they would distribute the same version on both platforms.
No, they're different. I mean, I get what you mean. Yeah, they're different packages ultimately. But why, if you'd release a Steam version, not just update the Microsoft one? I don't know. Yeah.
It's wild. And then, like you mentioned, the episodic content that happens, not embedded into the game. You mentioned, hey, there's a pack you can download. So let me just give you context for that. So, like I said, between each chapter, there's an actual TV episode. But those are being hosted on a server, which is no longer up anymore. So every time I finished an episode, it would be like, cool, we're going to show you the TV show now. Oh no, the server's unavailable. Do you want to skip and go to the next chapter? I'm like, well, thank God I know that this game's TV shows are like kind of pivotal and important to know what the hell's going on. So I had to watch them on YouTube. And it's just interesting because the TV pack you mentioned, it's like it exists only on Xbox. You can download the episodes for offline viewing. I
really thought it was on PC as well. I assume then that's the same for the Steam version, because I highly doubt that there's just this random server that only the Steam version can.
But apparently the Steam version, the videos are there. Like, I don't know how I can either confirm nor deny that, but that baffles me. That's why I'm like, this is
Microsoft is doing this game so dirty.
I'm like, this is on Game Pass. Like, how has it been like this for 8 to 9 years? Like, no wonder Quantum Break's been swept under the rug, which is a shame, because like it's got things I don't like about it, but it is still a very good Remedy game. Like, if you want a game that has a story that makes you rack your brain over time travel and how things fit into place and how things play out narratively, like Quantum Break is it. It's got a pretty fascinating story of, what happens when you go back in time and try to change events and, go into the future and whatever.
The whole butterfly effect really explored.
Like, can you actually change things? Yes or no? And it just explores that. And it's just, it's an interesting world. Like it kind of makes me sad. You've said to me that Remedy have said this does not exist in their shared universe.
It's a bummer. It's a real bummer.
I wouldn't be surprised if at some point they do make it fit. Like,
they could very easily at one point just retcon that, and it would make sense, because like you've got so many characters overlapping in here. I mean, you've got Lance Reddick, who was meant to appear as Warlandall in Alan Wake 2, and I feel like him there would be like the connective tissue between Alan Wake's world and Quantum Break's, just because of the nature of who Warlandall is, and like how that could make sense within the context of who Lance Reddick's character is in Quantum Break. So you've also got Courtney Hope in Quantum Break, before she appeared
for the longest time. I was like, she looks so familiar. Who is this? And I was like,
did you know?
I was like, oh, you moron.
Yeah, the lead actor in Control.
In Control, yeah.
Jesse Faden.
Faden,
yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, so it just shows like Remedy had all these ideas and had the people in mind for this back then. I think they were very savvy from a business perspective to latch onto Microsoft, who at the time was like very into this idea of TV. I mean, Quantum Break was announced with the Xbox One. I specifically recall because everyone gave Xbox shit for like, oh, they only spoke about TV, but like they put up a splash screen during that initial presentation that had Quantum Break there, and it was like from the creators of Max Payne, and it was this like weird game plus series sort of experiment. And you know, a lot of people brush it off because they're like, oh, okay, this is just another way for them to do TV series. And I think Sam Lake or whoever at Remedy were like, yeah, kind of, but we also want to experiment with this medium. And people give shit to Quantum Break for its series feeling very like not important in the grand scheme of things and the choices that you make. So the idea that you were affecting a TV series was nothing more than like you are choosing which episode to watch.
Smoke and mirrors.
But but it gave Remedy a chance to be like, okay, cool, maybe choice isn't the correct thing when it comes to integrating live action. What if we just keep the live action but integrate it into the storytelling as a whole new medium? And I think Control and Alan Wake show that is the correct path.
Alan Wake's a more modern example of blending those two together so well. Like truly, it's
in an incredible way.
It's so like stuff I've never seen in games before. How they've done it, where you're playing Alan Wake, and then just on the screen there's like Alex Casey, actual Sam Lake acting out a scene, or just looking at the camera in a moody point of view.
And I think what makes that approach so fascinating to me is that it's not something that you'll be like, oh, okay, we'll see this in every game from now on because it's like the popular thing. It's like, no, it only makes sense within the context of their games because of the story they're telling. This idea of like different mediums of art and different realities, like the live action makes sense. You're not going to see it suddenly in like, I don't know, a GTA or a Ubisoft game, because it just they wouldn't do that. It just feels weird in something like that. So it's cool that they've made it wholly like their identity, which I think is really rad. And Quantum Break was the start of that in many ways.
Yeah. It's also it's weird to me that I wouldn't be surprised if one day, maybe it's a pipe dream, but one day we do get a Quantum Break 2. Because the way it ends, it's like, okay, if you've not played Quantum Break, close your ears. If you're gonna go,
you've had 8 years.
You've had 8 years. But I feel like the whole not Wall and Door, what's his name, Martin Hatch in this game, it feels like they're setting him up for a sequel. And
amazing how his name is also like another word for door.
Yeah, but
just putting it out there.
100%, it has to be the same character.
It has to be intentional, yeah.
But like you've played the story, it's a thing of this. Most of the game to talk about. Oh no, you get these creatures between time. I think they're called shifters. You know, they exist only in the brink, whatever. And then you sort of piecing like, oh, old Martin Hatch is one of those. There's a scene where you're like, oh my God, like he's clearly one of those things. And then I think like surely the final chapter of this game, I'm going to fight Martin Hatch or something, and you just don't. It just sort of ends.
You don't learn more about him.
You don't learn more about him. And the end scene is like, oh, okay, it's revealed that Jack's been sort of relaying his whole story to somebody at what they're called? Monarch. There's old Martin Hatch, very much alive, and you know, talking to Jack about like, hey, like come work for us, or we can work together, whatever. You're like, okay, this is weird. Like, I wish they expand on this more. If only there were a sequel for them to do it. Maybe one day, I don't know.
Isn't it interesting that I mean, I never saw him, but I saw him like maybe twice. But Sean Ashmore obviously appears in Alan Wake 2 as a different character.
Yeah.
And there's the one moment where you meet him out in the courtyard and he's talking about Wall and Door, and he specifically talks about him being a figure that lives outside of time.
Yes.
And has access to doors that let him move between time. And it's like, well, this is literally 100%. What Martin Hatch was described as.
Yes.
So they have to be.
It's just so interesting because playing this game after Alan Wake 2, there are so many Alan Wake 2 Easter eggs. Whether I don't think Remedy knew they'd get to make the sequel. I mean, I'm sure they plan to, But like, I think you said to me like, oh no, it's Sam Lake has just said at the time it was just like Easter eggs. He had thoughts for the Alan Wake 2, but they're obviously 8 years ago, Alan Wake 2 wasn't being developed. Not that we're aware of. But it's just so cool to see how those Easter eggs, you're like, oh shit, that actually happened. Or like one thing that blows my mind is that throughout this game, you see AWE graffitied in numerous places, and on one of the boards where they talk, there's somebody scribbled notes about Alan Wake. Somebody's written there like AWE, it's like Alan Wake something or Altered World Event question mark. I'm like, oh my god, that's Control. Like 4 years before Control came out. So it's just
I think
interesting seeing that.
I think
stuff.
Sam Lake had these like grand ideas of how this is all piecing together, and over time he's had to adapt, how they really do fit together based on like the reality of game development. I think the interview in question was one from this week or last week where they were talking about this sort of stuff, and he basically said that he had the idea for Alan Wake 2's like core structure already before Quantum Break came out, like the idea of a cop working with Alex Casey was already an idea he had, and that's like something that was still central to Alan Wake 2 that came out last year. It is how it ended up working out. So I think at the time probably Quantum Break factored into that. It's just when it didn't work the same way, and maybe there was some weird deal stuff with Microsoft, he was like, cool, not going to include this because we don't actually know how this is going to fit in the future, but they could change that later down the line. I agree with you, and I think it would be really cool.
Who owns the IP? Does Remedy still own Quantum Break?
I want to say Remedy does. Yeah, I don't think Microsoft gave two shits about this IP at the end of the day. But that being said, I'm not entirely sure, because if that was the case, I don't know why it maybe wasn't put out on PlayStation.
Yeah.
Let me just see. Yeah, intellectual property. I don't know. It doesn't really. I can't really say.
I will say what is hilarious. It's always fun to look back and see how things shook out. Because I went to Quantum Break's wiki page to just learn a bit more about the story and just the how the game was made. And there's a paragraph there that says Remedy pitched an Alan Wake 2 sequel to Microsoft, and they went, no.
Oh yes, yeah.
No thanks. They want a new IP, which is just hilarious, because like you can look back now, I'm like, oh, like Microsoft darn did fuck up. Like, but Alan Wake 2, if it was released back then, it might have not hit the same way. Microsoft might have changed things, so it's unfair to be like, yeah, Microsoft, like, look, how could you do this? I mean, at the time, the strategy was TV inclusion, a game that brought TV elements to gameplay. Like, of course you would go for that. So yeah, it's just funny to look back and be like, damn, there's an alternate timeline where Alan Wake 2 is a Microsoft exclusive, and maybe by this point we've got Alan Wake 3 and 4 or something. Control and Quantum Break never happened. They don't exist. So yeah, it's interesting. Long and the short for those, that Quantum Break is definitely it's a dated game if you compare it to Control and Alan Wake 2, but as a product of its time, I appreciate it for what it is, what it was, and I enjoyed playing it. I'm glad I got to finally tick that one off my Remedy list. It's complete now.
I'm glad. Yeah.
I think the only things I've missed now are it's the Control DLC, and I've played a little bit of Alan Wake's American Nightmare. I never finished it. I'm like, do I go back and play it?
It's also like a roguelite mode of that. It's not the greatest. I honestly am not a huge fan of it.
I played Alan Wake. I loved it. It's like, oh my god, there's like a sequel DLC. Played as like, this is just a completely different vibe, and
it does. It feels completely different. So yeah, I'm just reading here. In July 2018, after announcing their new game, this was Control at the time, which starred one of Quantum Break's actresses, Remedy CEO Tara Virtala said a sequel to Quantum Break is pending approval from Microsoft, which owns the intellectual property of Quantum Break.
Phil Spencer, please.
So RIP. That is, in my view, exactly why it's not included in the connected universe. Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't own it. They can't include those characters. Yeah. So they're getting around it.
Yeah.
They're including characters that are definitely calling back to those exact characters there. But yeah, the odds of a Quantum Break sequel, I think, are pretty next to none at this point.
We didn't think we'd get an Alan Wake 2, so...
I mean, that's fair. That's fair. It took like 13 years, so who knows? Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
But cool. That's...
it's a good game. Like I was just briefly looking through, like, you know, Wikipedia sort of sums up the critical response to it, and like there's a lot of critique on the game's combat and platforming and this and that. And granted, I haven't played the game since 2016. I remember reviewing it. I distinctly remember the review embargo came out on the same day as my graduation at varsity. So I was sitting there listening to some god awful speech and refreshing my phone because you know, when you review something for embargo, no one outside of this sort of industry knows, but it's kind of like nerve-wracking because you don't want to have the same score as everyone, because that kind of defeats the purpose of critique. Like, being the average score is like kind of stupid, and I never understood the idea of like, yeah, you got so close to the Metacritic score, like that's cool, who cares? But you also don't want to be this extreme outlier, because you just invite all sorts of like negative attention from social media, not from other critics. I think other critics completely understand that people have different views on things.
Yeah,
but like other people
gamers.
Don't.
No.
So I'd given Quantum Break a 9.
Nice.
I thought it was fucking spectacular at the time. I just really, really enjoyed it. And I remember when the reviews dropped and I started reading the first few, and it was like 6, 7. And I was just like,
I know.
Oh, fuck. What have I done? I was just like, am I like, did I give this game a pass, or did I like see stuff that others didn't, or did others not? And I was just like, no, well,
so
shit.
I actually went back and I did read your review, and I think you nailed it. Like,
thank you.
Like, I completely, and it's funny looking back at it, like an 8-year thing of like, well, this is clearly innovative or whatever at the time. And I think you were fair of like, you know, the inclusion of TV, this, that, whatever. I don't know. It didn't strike me as like, oh, you just...
I just found the game fucking fun. Like, I straight up probably enjoyed it more than others in that regard. And especially at the time, it was, to me, like the first thing on Xbox One that was like, wow, this is eye-poppingly beautiful, you know? So
also, shout out to Quantum Break for including a very loose version of what we got in Tears of the Kingdom's Rewind, because that exists in Quantum Break. There are certain environmental things that you have to rewind into place to like get across, whatever. I played, I was like, oh my god,
you're right.
This is Tears of the Kingdom. So shout out to Remedy for having that in the games 8 years ago.
Remedy aren't giving enough. It's just funny though, because especially after Quantum Break, when they announced Control, everyone was like, Remedy, and then like Control put them back on track, I feel like, in such a gigantic way, even though it didn't sell super well. So that's a real
which baffles me. Control and Alan Wake 2 not selling like tens of millions. I'm like, why?
I do feel like they have themselves to blame somewhat. Like the marketing for Control was super confusing. I didn't really understand what sort of game that was up until very close. Like, some people were describing it as a roguelite, and then others are like, no, wait, it's not a roguelite, it's a Metroidvania. And it's like what is this?
Yeah, what is going on?
Yeah, so I don't know. Weird.
That is all I have played this week.
Wow. Blast from the past and
another
a roguelite with the past in it.
Sensing a theme here.
What will come next? Yeah, who knows?
Cool.
Yeah, so we aren't going to be doing the regular run of show today, like game releases and game news and questions. You'll probably would have realized Matty didn't put out a question tweet or whatever. It's not just because he forgot. He's actually really good at his job.
The guy forgot. I've forgotten sometimes.
We didn't get any, as far as I know, anyway, so it's fine. I've got no emails or whatever.
I don't think we did.
But yeah, I haven't spoken about anything that I've played purely because I really haven't played anything. And this has started becoming a pretty big running theme in my life, for a multitude of reasons. It's, for those who don't know, I'm like getting married pretty soon, within the next like 7 weeks. Who knew? And that's been something that's been, in planning. For anyone who would have done a wedding will know, like, it takes a lot of planning. It takes a lot of time from you. It's all consuming completely. And it's all consuming for the best reasons. Like, it's a very, everyone I speak to about this, I get the sense that they're like thinking that I hate this process. It's like, I don't hate this process. Like, it's all in service of a very important milestone day. But that doesn't take away from the fact that it is a stressful and time-consuming endeavor.
Yeah.
Couple that with a stressful day job, doing writing reviews as well for GameSpot, and then doing this podcast on a regular basis. And I just found last year that I was very quickly brushing up against a very dangerous breaking point of complete burnout. Through no fault of my own. We put this pressure on ourselves because we want to do things that we enjoy and make content we enjoy and content that we hope other people enjoy. The problem with that was that I was coming to a point where I just felt like I wasn't enjoying a lot of the things that usually gave me joy anymore. One of them just being playing video games. For the past couple of months, I've been struggling to bring myself to find the desire to do that. In the past, it would be a very simple, like, oh, I've got an hour and a half in an evening. It's a no-brainer what I'm going to do. Nowadays, it's more like, it feels more like an obligation more than anything else, and that feels bad.
Yeah.
So going hand in hand with that is the sort of like requirement to still stay up to date with things for the purposes of being relevant and interesting on this podcast. And because that sort of pressure to do that has now become more of a weight, it has taken away a lot of the enjoyment I had producing this show. Not because Matty is a terrible person.
Terrible co-host.
Aside from the fact, yeah. I thoroughly enjoy my time spent with him, and it's the reason why we've cultivated such a strong friendship and why he's flying halfway across the world to attend my wedding, which is crazy.
You did the same for me. It's only fair.
But I have to be honest with myself, and it's just, it takes more effort and energy than it should to be like online for this show week in and week out. And it's a disservice to me. It's a disservice to Matthew, who's giving the exact same amount of time. And then a disservice to everyone who listens, who maybe noticed a drop off in enthusiasm or something. Or if you didn't, that's maybe good, I guess. So the long and the short of it is, the podcast is not ending, so to speak, but we are going to go through a period of reevaluation over the next 2 months at the very least, in part to give me a bit of time to kind of decompress and get to the date of my wedding and get past that and see how I feel after a lot of these stresses are taken off of me, and I have a bit more free time, or I've returned a bit back to like normality in terms of routine. But then also to give us a small chance to kind of experiment with new formats that we've wanted to look at. I know especially Matty's been wanting to always do a bit more of video stuff, video production, but when you have the stress of a weekly produced show, there's only so much you can do in the available amount of time that we have. So going forward, at least until I think we've decided April, we will no longer be doing weekly shows, at least on Saturdays. There won't be like a weekly podcast on a Monday. Instead, what we're going to do is pop up sort of like ad hoc style with reviews or smaller episodes when we feel there's something interesting to talk about, or when there is a game that we want to review, or if there is something, we just want to cover.
Yeah.
That will make the content less regular. That doesn't mean that there might not be 2 reviews in a week and then maybe only one in 3 weeks. It really depends on the release schedule, but it hopefully means we can kind of explore the goals we want to for the next 2 months and see when we come back in April, is this something we still want to pursue and continue and, take it from there, or through this experience find that, oh, okay, we can deliver content in a different way now that actually makes more sense for everyone involved. So that is the plan going forward. I don't know if you want to add anything.
No, I just want to say, just because I don't think any listener will realize, but it is like a huge time commitment. Like we create this podcast and we love creating this podcast, but it is a time commitment in that every single Saturday, we've done it for years now. Well,
6 years.
6 years, like every Saturday morning, it's like this first thing we do in the weekend. And I was saying to Alessandro when he raised like how he's feeling with me, that like to me it kind of becomes a red flag when we go for the December break and both of us are like, oh, like thank goodness, just some breathing room. And it's like it's maybe not obvious, but when that happens, I'm like, oh yeah, maybe it is nice to have, my Saturday mornings back for whatever. Like it's a huge time commitment, and I don't think. I'm not at all blaming anyone. Like I'm just more putting it for context of like a listener maybe you wouldn't realize like we're cool. You get the 1.5 hour episode, whatever. But there's a time before we start recording. There's a time after we start recording where we edit. Alessandro does a lot of admin in the back end in terms of like dealing with our media partners, reaching out to people. Like it's a huge time thing on the side, and I just think like. For both of us, it makes sense to just pull back a little bit, just lighten the load, and sort of see how we go from there. And again, like it's just for the next 2 months. We're going to see how things go. I'll still be active on our social platforms, keeping you guys informed on what's happening when. And yeah, we'll take it from there. See how things shake out.
I think if you look at when we started this, both of our lives were in extremely different places.
Oh yeah.
In terms of just things we had to do and things we had to keep track of. And I think for you, especially in the earlier years, you got married about a year or 2 into us doing the podcast, and like I can only imagine how tough that was, because like at that point we were still doing in-person recordings, and you were coming to my house every Saturday morning to do recordings, which was insane. Like I think about that back then, and I'm like, we were insane to do that for so long. Like I have no idea why we didn't pivot to remote earlier.
No, I think it's easy to look back now.
I think it's over time. It just compounds, and life gets tougher. Obviously, and you also just have less energy to give to things as time goes on, which is a natural thing. And you went through a gigantic move this year. I since starting the podcast, I moved out of my house and had the added not stresses, but the added reality of like, your life is now different because you have to fend for yourself in different ways, and that adds
you're running your own
different time requirements. And exactly. So I think like you said, it's like easy to look at this and be like, oh, it's an 1.5 hours. What's an 1.5 hours? But like take your weekend. Everyone comes to work on a Monday and is like, damn, that weekend felt short. Now just rip out like 4 to 5 hours from that. Yeah. Like do that every week. And that's what we're doing. Not because I hate it. I love it. But this whole thing is happening now because that love is waning. And it's not fair on anyone to force it. So
it's also like I said to you, I mean, I know you still do game reviews, written reviews. I'm like, oh my God, you are a mad lad.
Much fewer though, so it's like.
But I do remember when I like our time with Lazy Gamer / Critical Hits. I absolutely loved that time. Learned so much, played so much stuff, wrote so much stuff. But I also remember when I stepped back to pursue a full-time career, just going like, oh, that's wild. I can play games without the pressure of, oh my God, like I've got to think about this critically and I've got to write a review. And, you as a listener might argue, well, are you not doing that now? And the reality is that I pivoted to this podcast because I missed that thing of like playing games for review and looking at them like as works of art or analyzing them critically. But I removed the time constraints of like having to sit and write a review and edit and it's a lot easier to talk about a game as opposed to having to write about a game, in my opinion. Like it just seems a lot simpler. But it's just that thing of you fall into the danger of like, oh shit, like I've got to play something for this weekend or whatever. But I think if we remove that time that pressure, I think we'll feel a lot better about it. It's also just like, to be honest, to give you breathing room, like getting married, it's a wonderful affair, don't get me wrong, but it is a lot of admin. Like I completely get it.
Oh my God.
And like I laughed when you're like, cool, we're going to podcast Saturday, then Sunday morning I've got dancing lessons. I'm like, I get it. It's like, it's all these little things that all lead to this big day that you can't escape. And it's just, it's the time you need. So I completely get it.
And then I think just the double whammy is the frustration of like when I do have a day off or an afternoon off on a weekend and Shani's like, you can chill, just, relax, like let's just both chill. And then I like load up a game and don't get that same sense of relaxation or satisfaction from it. It's infuriating. Like I can't even describe how frustrating it is. So like to have that associated to the hobby I, quote unquote, used to love, and then have to force myself to engage with that hobby for the show. It's just like, I don't think either of them is going to help rekindle that sort of desire to play games again. And I'm hoping, just like you said you felt when that pressure is taken off and you can just enjoy them on their own terms, maybe that will like be a reset that I need. And this isn't like a unique thing that I'm going through or that you went through. Like every single person I know who's been in this industry has gone through this. Like I recall very vividly Jeff going through this exact thing near the final days of Critical Hit. He's like, I just can't. I don't like playing games anymore. I hate them. And since then, he gets to pick and choose what he wants to play because he doesn't have to play anything. And he's, I think, turned that corner. So I'm hoping to get the same feeling.
He's probably in bed playing Infinite Wealth, Yakuza, like a dragon
in his underwear right
as
now.
we speak.
Yeah. What a fucking life.
Nice.
Sounds great.
Must be nice. So yeah, the long and the short of it is that the podcast isn't going anywhere. It's just going to be different, at least for a little while, and we'll reassess.
Yeah. And we'll reassess and be honest with, I think, with you as listeners and with ourselves as well, because I think we're both on the same page where we don't want to force the other to continue doing something they're not enjoying as much as, the other might still love it. Nothing is forever, but at least for now, this is just a pause. It's not gone yet. But so I'm still very excited to see what we do in the meantime, because I think maybe without the shackles of like routine, maybe we'll end up really enjoying what we put out. So yeah, we'll see. Cool. We'll keep you updated on social media, and you'll see videos and episodes go up from time to time. So all I can hope to do is ask you to keep listening if you are listening. And if you end up leaving, like, totally understand. We appreciate everyone's support up until this point, as always. And if you have any questions as well, like on social media at Checkpoint Chat, or you can email us at Checkpoint Chat. We'll probably not answer them on a show, but I will. If you email, I'll reply straight up. So yeah. And also, Matty will send you a heart emoji on Twitter. Or
yeah, like, please engage with us by any means necessary. I mean, and we'll see, like, maybe when it comes to doing reviews, maybe we'll put out questions specifically for if you have anything on. Like we say, we're recording about X game coming out. Do you have any questions about it? Or like we'll see. This is something we're going to figure out as we go as well. So please do bear with us. You're not dead to us. Please, I was joking. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the long and the short of it. Kind of a weird note to end the episode on. But yeah, it's just something that I guess we had to get to eventually. That's why I didn't want to start the show with this, because then how do you pivot from this to like, and God of War Valhalla?
Now let's go God of War. Yay. Hey, to be fair, I enjoy talking about God of War. It's a good time.
So yeah, no news and stuff today because, surprise, I actually have to leave in the next like 10 minutes as we're recording this, because my day begins now and will not end until this evening. So yeah, we're straight. And God bless Matthew for getting up at fucking 6 a.m. to make it on time for this recording, given the time difference. This is literally the only time we'd have this weekend.
Listen,
so again, the stresses of this. So
I'm gonna go.
He says he's going to go for a run now, but he's going to go run back into bed.
I wish. What's the time? 20:07. No, I've got like an hour and 40 minutes to park run. Let's go. I can go have a nap.
Wait, what? Does park run only start at 9?
9 starts at 9.
Oh, right. Yeah, because it's like at 8 a.m. It's still like pitch dark there. So
I don't know if it pivots back in summer, but at the moment it's 9 o'clock.
Surely it must. You'll die. You'll cremate
Absolutely.
at 9 a.m.
You'll cremate. Just run straight into your coffin. All your own.
You turn a corner as the sun blares on you and just turn into dust like a vampire, you know.
So yeah, we're running. Lensk and I are running today. So yeah, all good.
That sounds good. Well, that's been episode 247. Checkpoint Chat. We'll get to 250 maybe. Who knows?
We will.
Waiting with bated breath. Could you imagine if we just ended the podcast at 250? That'd be fucking hilarious. Yeah. Oh my God, on 249, yeah. That would actually drive me insane until the day I die.
40 years from now, episode 250, like, hey, I'm still alive.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
I survived. Just done.
Cool.
Thank you as always for listening. We hope you have a great week going forward, and we'll see you sometime, I guess. Not next week, but sometime.
Catch us on social media. Bye.
Oh, yeah. Catch us on social media. Yeah. Okay, bye.
Bye.